are the most incredible pervert. Congratulations.
Hello, everybody. It is April 21st, 2025, 7:02 p.m. EST, and you're watching the Dovecote episode 66 with Austin Ramsay and Christine Blight. Austin, Christine, in whatever order you'd like to, please introduce yourselves to my waiting, hungry audience.
Hi, everyone. My name's Austin Ramsay. I am a tabletop role-playing game designer, best known for the game Beam Saber, and also 10 years in the actual play business.
Hi, I'm Christine Blight. I'm a voice actor, an editor, and sound engineer, and I am also 10 years in the actual play business. Actually, I guess 11. Wow.
Hell yeah. I actually, so, uh, uh, uh there are a combination of reasons why, this combination of people are here today. um, but one of those is CalsCon. But I actually didn't know that y'all have I mean, it makes sense because you have a channel for it, but I didn't know y'all had an actual play history before CalsCon. I'm curious what each of you have done in the past.
Uh, in I guess 2014, we I can't remember when it was around COVID when I was like, I can't do this anymore until CalsCon brought me back. Um,
One
where
last job.
well, we that's what I say after everyone.
Mhm.
We did a podcast, You Don't Meet in an Inn, which I don't like the name. I made it up. Regrets are everywhere. But the pretense of that was Austin, gosh, Austin just loves collecting RPGs.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, like she kept coming to me and was just saying that like I have all these amazing games that I would love to play, but no one wants to play with them with me because no one knows the rules. And I was like, well, you know, let's just do a series where we shoot one shots, where we change, we rotate out the players, theoretically rotate out the GMs, but alas, Austin is a forever GM.
Hmm.
Where we just tackle on these games so that like you get to see how you like them, and other people can listen to them and see, is this something that they would enjoy playing? Try to stress test some of the rules, see like what kind of stories could evolve from the game systems, because I'm a person who believes that like you can always press the boundaries of the cage of the rules, but I do feel that the rules of a system really do lend to the type of stories you can tell with a system. So that was part of it. And yeah, so we for I don't know, for several years we were just chugging out weekly weekly podcast episodes of like a new game, sometimes every week, sometimes we did some more long form ones, but yeah.
Hell yeah. Uh, 10 years is 10 years is a lot.
Yeah, we've been at it for a while.
Do you feel like if I know this is kind of probably a bit difficult, but like if you had to like take out one piece of wisdom, y'all can answer separately if you so desire. Like if you had to take out like one piece of wisdom from like 10 years of doing APs, like what would you say that is?
Ugh. Um,
Develop a good system of communications with your players.
Hmm.
very well put.
Mm,
Uh,
mhm.
I was also thinking something along the lines of, you know, make sure that you have buy-in from the players for the game and the show.
Mhm. Um, I'm curious. Both those are really interesting to me. I'm gonna go backwards. Because like I'm curious in terms of like getting buy-in from players. Like something that I've definitely struggled with in making my own APs is I'm never sure how to balance as like an organizer or often as a GM producer, like mixed role. If I should be going for if I should be getting together a group of cool people and then asking them what they want to do, or if I should be coming to a group of cool people and being like, "Hey, look at this cool thing that I have, this cool idea that
Mm.
I have." What sort of direction do y'all Like, what balance of those things do y'all usually go for, or is it something else?
It I usually handled the organization side of the show, and what it usually happened was I would pick a game that I was interested in running or facilitating, and then I would think about the players that we had worked with, either previously or were thinking about working with, and I would pick players who I felt were a good match for the tone of the game.
Hmm.
Because some players just don't have a serious bone in their body.
Mhm.
And so there is absolutely no hope of telling a serious story if they're involved. And then sometimes there's, players who don't get along well, um, even though both are very good people and are joys to play with. Um, so yeah, it's just a lot of uh, consideration in that regards, particularly around making sure the players were a good fit for the game that I wanted to do, because a lot of the players that we worked with weren't familiar with a wide variety of tabletop role-playing games.
Hmm.
They knew D&D, they might know a couple others, but we were bringing some really obscure stuff to the table for the podcast.
Mhm. Yeah. Let me try and give folks a sense of that, because this is this is why they pay me the big bucks to be a journalist. I'm not a journalist. I I went to journalism school and then quit.
Oh dear.
Well, I mean, I didn't quit journalism school. I quit doing journalism type stuff, but I don't really know much about what games you've played in the past. I suppose I could just ask you, what are some of those games?
Oh boy. I mean, it's a long list here. I can
Mhm.
I can put the link in the Twitch chat.
Yeah.
Um, what have we played? We've played Big Eye Small Mouth Third Edition, Apocalypse
Oh, hell
World,
yeah. Sorry.
Everyone is John, Fiasco, It Came from Somewhere Else, Fate, Lasers and Feelings, Faith, One Last Job, Unknown Army Second Edition, Unknown Armies Third Edition, All Flesh Must Be Eaten, Lady Blackbird, Savage Worlds, Poor
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunate Fools, Monster Hearts, Dogs in the
Mm-hmm.
Vineyard, Engine Heart, Paranoia 5th Edition, Magister Lore, The Quiet Year, The Fifth World, Mermaid Adventures, Doe Pilgrims of the Flying Temple, Dread Open Legend, Unbelievable Macho Bullshit, Microscope, One Ugly Motherfucker, Dungeon World, Golden Sea, Stories from the Grave, One Missed Call, Showdown, Starcrossed, Murderous Ghost, Geiger Counter, Spindle Wheel, Velvet Glove, and Fancy Craft.
Some good ass games. So also some like dog shit games that are like awesome. Like Big Eyes Small Mouth is dog water, but it's so fun to fuck around in.
Yeah, yeah, that was actually the very first game we released was Big Eye Small to Mouth,
Oh god.
because there is effectively a module that I wrote for it years and years ago.
Okay.
Like the module even basically predates the podcast, because it was a way of getting people who weren't familiar with tabletop role playing games to A, try them, and B, try something other than D&D,
Mhm.
because the module is based around the idea that you play characters from popular culture, and
Mhm.
then those get statted out and thrown into the same uh, uh, conflict, in a sense. So I've run it a few times with a wide variety of characters, but yeah. So that was one of the first things we ran to try and ease some of the players in it into the idea of playing tabletop role playing games by way of the familiar fan favorite characters.
Okay. That's fun. There's almost some like proto interstitial. I don't know when that was being done. I guess that'd be around the time of interstitial, right? If it was like
No, this I'm pretty sure predates Interstitial.
okay.
Interstitial, I think, was around the same time that I was working on Beam Saber. because Riley and I were in the same design group. So that would put it
Right.
around 2018. We released those episodes in like May of 2014.
Oh, okay. There's something.
But
Oh, sorry. Good.
I was just gonna say, but it's not exactly a rare concept, the idea of doing the crossover fic.
Yeah, I am realizing that like there's a continuity of uh like folks who worked in and around a sphere that was kind of uh like in the orbit of what uh of things that like became the Friends of the Table fandom and Moonshot. Like in terms of just like people I've had on the show recently, because I've had Kovita, I've had Sasha Renaud, and I've had you. um
Yeah, all three of us were in the same design group.
okay, yeah, that's really interesting. Okay.
Yeah, there was basically a design group that formed out of Friends at the Table fans
Okay.
around 2018, and so all of us sort of, collaborated and gave feedback and stuff to each other's games and shared ideas and play tested each other's works.
Very very interesting. I was definitely kind of fangirling out around that time about about y'all's work, so uh, that's cool. Um, Getting back to well, I was supposed to bridge the gap a bit. Beam Saber, uh, Forged in the Dark, type mech game. Um,
Hmm.
that game's been out for a bit. How are you feeling about it as like a thing that that you've had out for a while and are still working on?
Um, Tired.
Mhm.
um, I I am sometimes very tired of the core rules. I don't mind working on the like supplements. Like last year, I put out like 5 new short supplements for the game, 5 or 6, something like that. And then just this past weekend, I put out an update to the biggest supplement, the Growing Conflict.
Mhm.
Um, but I want to work on other stuff. I just keep having ideas for it. It's the problem.
That's real. I have games that I haven't put out that I, I keep I keep doing that with. So I I can appreciate that. It's fucking real.
We were also very recently play testing another, I guess, supplement to Beam Saber, Rush Wars,
Mm.
which is altering the rules of Beam Saber to be a little less high sci-fi and more like inspired by Fast and the Furious, Saints Row, just a bunch of car freaks
Oh fuck yes, this
doing
looks
crime.
awesome.
We were doing this was uh the campaign started about, I don't know, like a year and a half ago when we were
Uh,
trying to play cast.
no, it was 2 years ago. It ended a year ago.
Oh my God, time means nothing to me. Yeah, but we started prior to Elon Musk completely losing his shit. But we that was we had Elon Musk as our um as our enemy that we were taking down, and Grimes made an appearance as a rival. I don't know why we didn't just have Elon. We were cowards. We should have just said Elon Musk and Grimes. Like, who's gonna stop us? It was our own game.
Uh-huh.
um, but actually, Austin took the campaign that we did and commissioned cover art of our characters for the supplement.
Hell yeah.
And
Yes, perennial artist that I work with, Corey Hadrian McDaniel,
yes,
who is in chat, did the
hi.
did the
Hi.
amazing cover art for Rush Wars, and has also done a number of other Beam Saber pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, he was in that campaign too. So he had first-hand experience about what those characters were like, and really did an excellent job capturing them for the cover art.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Something that I'm noticing that I think is really cool. Uh, I I'm getting the sense that Beam Saber is a game that you made because you wanted to play it. Is that accurate?
Um, so it started in July of 2017 because Christine, myself, and two friends did a single session of Mobile Frame Zero Firebrands. And that totally reignited my love for the mecha genre, which had basically been in hibernation for the prior like 10 years.
Love Firebrands. Good game.
And I just started taking notes, and sort of the starting point was in Friends at the Table's Counterweight season. They played Mech Noir, which is a hack of Tech Noir, and then they played the Sprawl and hacked mechs into it. So my thought was, okay, what does a PBTA game designed for mechs from the ground up look like? And that was my starting point. And then I eventually switched over to Forged in the Dark when I heard about Blades in the Dark, particularly the score and then downtime cycle that I felt was be an excellent fit for a mecha genre with missions and then downtime where you could get the important character interactions. And if I don't mind patting myself on the back a bit, I was right.
Yeah, it's great. It's good shit. I suppose that's a good lead into something that I really like about what I've listened to of KalazCon, which is unfortunately not as much as I wanted to get.
There's a lot
my
to
ears.
listen to.
Yeah, yeah. Something that I really like is the structure of downtime into missions into like almost like a Model UN like style thing of like deciding what mission each team is going to do next. How I mean, I don't know if how did you do that? Like how did you keep that organized? I suppose is my question. What was the process for that?
Oh, a dedicated Discord server with channels for each play group, and then one channel for the production crew and one channel for the GMs. And then spreadsheets to figure out which which player was gonna be in which squad, and assigning them their playbooks based upon ranked voting. And then we just had a schedule where where the playgroups would say when they were recording, and then confirm that they had recorded. And then once everyone had been confirmed as recording one part of a cycle, then everyone would be allowed to schedule the next cycle of recordings.
Just for clarification on 2 points there. So a cycle is defined. Sorry, I don't know why I'm going into this, but so a cycle is defined as a mission segment, a downtime segment, and then a legislative episode. So once everyone has filmed their mission and downtime, and that could be within any degree of time, because there were some times where people had medical emergencies or people couldn't get together to record, but it was usually roughly a month per cycle that recording would happen. And then once all of those were in the bag, the GMs wrote mission reports for both the mission and the downtime cycles to let everyone know what happened, because it's 6 groups telling the same story, and all the events were supposed to sort of cause a cascading effect for everybody. So the GMs would write the mission reports, and then the legislatives would come in after everything was submitted, describe what happened in their characters' words, which isn't necessarily the truth,
Hmm.
but what happened, and then vote on what the next missions would be based off of that.
That
And
rules.
and also Christine is making it sound way more smooth than it actually was. And
Mhm.
that's even with Christine pointing out some of the bumps we had along the way.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
How did you make sure that like you weren't just like completely fucked if like that there was like a significant like series of uh if there were things preventing folks from being able to show up.
Well, we kept it so that the cycles were paired together because that was like one
Hmm.
unit of time passing. So if there was a significant delay, which there was at one point, then we simply just told people that they had to wait to record. And then usually people could find time within a month or so to each recording session was suggested to be between 3.5 to 4 hours. I I just got done. I'm still editing it. It's like
Hmm.
2 years out. I'm still working on them.
I mean, it seems
It's quite a
huge.
it's just a lot of work.
Uh-huh.
But we I just finished one where they submitted 5.5 hour episode that I had to trim down to usually the episodes once trimmed down were about an hour to an hour and a half, maybe an hour 45, and that took a lot of elbow grease, but
Hmm.
it was a big mission. But yeah, but typically people could set aside around 4 hours or 48 hours a month, you know,
Hmm.
not super easy, of course, because, we're all adults and we do have a lot of responsibilities and challenges coming up. But people did manage to find that.
Hell yeah.
Oh, sorry. Also, Austin, when organizing who went into which play group, that was predominantly chosen because of who was in what time zone. Because we do
Yeah.
Hmm.
have people I want to say all around the world, all around the Western world. We have people in Canada, US, and the UK.
And then one itinerant player who happened to be somewhere in mainland Europe,
Hmm.
uh, who, when they applied, was in the west coast of the US. And then
Oh.
once we had started recording, had moved to Europe. Uh, so that made that group's scheduling interesting, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
I was not in charge of scheduling other people's sessions. So
Yeah, fair. That sounds as someone who has two colleagues in Uri Held who are on a mainland European time zone, that sounds challenging for sure.
yeah, we wound up with uh, one group that was primarily UK players,
Mhm.
one group that was East Coast players, one group that was Central Time Zone slash Mountain Time Zone players, and two groups that were West Coast. And then the last group, the legislature, was kind of just all over the place.
That yeah. Uh, one thing that I am curious about is like so uh, the time zone thing does kind of inevitably, I mean not necessarily inevitably, but I imagine would make it so that like the groups aren't necessarily going to be people who know each other or always necessarily people who know each other going into the game. Did you have any methods that you used to kind of help build those initial connections, or did you kind of just wing it?
Kind of just winged it. Honestly, I when I started the project, I did not. Okay, there are, including myself
Hmm.
and Christine, 31 performers
Yes,
in the show.
33 participants.
I mean, if we are what? Sorry, who are you counting outside of the performers?
The third editor.
Yeah. Okay, so that's 32 then.
Yeah. Oh, did I? I said 33.
I
Yeah.
was wondering who the extra one was.
My cat.
It was me. I've been here the whole time.
Yes.
um, yeah, we had 31 performers and then another editor who was not a performer. I did not know that many performers before the show started, or knew that many people who would want to be in an actual play. So I just put out a call on social media for people who would be interested, and I got about 45 applications, initial applications, and then I sent out a second round questionnaire, and I got fewer responses to that. So there was a minute amount of leeway for people who were available for the show, which was lucky because 2 people dropped out before we started, before contracts were signed,
Hmm.
for various reasons. But those who did sign the contracts stuck it out, thankfully. um, yeah, so because a lot of these people were people that I did not know, a lot of the groups were strangers to each other. There was, I think, uh, there was 3 groups where at least 2 of the players knew each other.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and then just by happenstance, one of the groups, um, I paired up one of the players with, or 2 of the players knew each other, but I was unaware of that, and but the others who knew each other, I knew about that beforehand. Um, like Christine's group, she was playing with Hadrian, who, as I said, we've played games with before. Um, and
Also
then
one of my best friends.
and then one of the West Coast groups, the 2 of the players were roommates, and then in the UK group, there was 2 pairs of 2 players who knew each other separately, and I only knew about one of those pairs beforehand.
That's really funny.
Because I was fans of their own actual play, Admiralty Blues. Shoutouts to that show, which is another Beam Saber actual play. So yeah, I was happy to have them.
Hell yeah. Cool. I realized that before the show, I told you the questions that I normally ask, and I got very. I also warned you that we sometimes don't go through those questions, and that happened. I will nonetheless ask: are any of you, are either of you working on or playing anything cool lately? I'd love to hear.
I mean, right now I'm still in the class zone, just vortex. It kind of
Hmm.
it really took over my life, which I'll get into a little bit later once Austin's finished saying what she wants to say. But other than that, I've been doing. I help Austin with her writing. I always say, Beam Saber and other things can be definitely made without me, but I do a lot of polishing up, editing initial layouts, do art for them, do covers sometimes. I think it's important to. I don't know if it was ever said. Austin and I have been together for like
Hmm.
I don't know. Is it?
Since we were 22 or
Yeah,
23,
I don't know.
and
Like 14 years, coming up 15 years. So
Damn.
yeah, and it's important to me that when you're in a partnership, that if you have a skill that you can contribute to personal projects, you should. And so that sort of led me down in, into into this world. um
yeah, Christine is wonderfully multi-talented. As she said, she's helped me out with a lot of different stuff with my game design, and I frequently, the only thing she didn't mention is the fact that I often bounce ideas off of her when I'm stuck with a mechanic.
Hmm.
mhm.
How do you balance? This is something that like I've thought a lot about because I have business partners who are also partners.
Mhm.
How do you two balance that element of it? Kind of, being creative collaborators and partners.
It really just it comes down to respect that we
Mm,
don't always agree with things, particularly, you know, whatever whoever's the main force behind a project gets final say, of course. But it really just has to come down to even if we disagree, we respect each other as people, we respect each other as artists. We might fight hard for well, okay, I'm the fighter.
mm.
I am the fighter for, like if you send out this PDF with that image on it, I am burning this house to the ground. But um, but ultimately, it's just respecting someone as an artist and a partner. It can get a little you have to be very conscientious of it sometimes, especially with working on CallusCon, which um again I'll get into a little bit later. It just it's sometimes hard when like the lines are very blurred between okay, this is technically my boss and my romantic partner,
Mhm.
and also I'm doing some of the boss's job. So things can be a little frustrating sometimes because you can't leave it at the office. Um, but I love her a lot. And I'm so happy
Yeah.
to be with her and to be creating things with her. And it really boils down to that where I'm so happy that I can be with someone and work with someone and, you know, make a life and make a life and art with them is very important to me. So,
Hell
Yep.
yeah.
I don't think I have much more to say than that, other than the fact that I have a tendency to be a bit messy in my work, and notoriously I have terrible uh, uh, image balancing skills or layout skills, and that sometimes drives Christine nuts.
Hmm.
well, I guess I'll get into it now.
Yeah, get
So
into
with
it.
with CallusCon, so originally I was brought on as a player and as an editor. Um, and the work was distributed so that Austin would be Austin would be editing two squads, I'd be editing two squads, and our third editor, uh, I only really know him by his Discord name, and I would like what is his legal name?
I think it's Maurice.
I wanted to have his last name. I want to advertise him because he did a lot of really important work, but it was just one of the situations where that's where it was sort of settled, and that's what I signed up for. And then um we actually haven't discussed this because at the time it was too much. But
Uh,
in the middle of recording, so Austin's mother has cancer. Um
Okay.
and in the middle of recording, she she had a bad turn. And we at that time we were already providing a lot of care for her. And after her horrible turn, which we had to like really fight to get her into the hospital, and we found out she was dying of sepsis.
Hmm.
Um, so we were able to get her into the hospital, and she was in there for about a month, and then after that, for almost completely dependent on Austin and me for care. And so this was like in the middle. We had, we had 30 people working with us, and we had recordings coming in, and I was doing recordings, and so um, Austin was doing a lot of the primary care at that time, because I I'm a widow. My husband had cancer when I was in my early 20s, and um, so it's hard taking care of a dying person, and I am willing to contribute to that. But um, I couldn't be the primary caregiver again. I
Mhm.
was fine being a secondary caregiver. Sorry, this is very intense for this
No,
job.
it's totally okay. I appreciate
Yeah.
you. I appreciate the candor. Absolutely.
So as that was happening, we we were scrambling to we were just really scrambling to keep the show upright because we felt like a lot of people were depending on us, which, they were. So I ended up taking a good deal amount of work on my shoulders. So I think in the description you have me as the sound editor, but I kind of came away with the CallusCon. I am performer, editors. I ended up taking on all the sound balancing just because when I was listening to the submitted episodes, the balancing, you could really tell that a different hand was touching each of the tracks, and I wanted a cohesive sound for the project. And listen, if there's anything about me, I love work. I I am a husky. If I am not working, I am chewing up the couch. So, I took on all the sound balancing, and then I took on designing art for the show. I did cover art with Hadrian McDaniel, and I also helped Hadrian make some of the icons because it's a podcast and a YouTube show. Austin wanted to make sure that both audiences would, you know, it, there's different audiences in different formats, and she wanted to make sure that anyone who wanted to enjoy the show in the way that they preferred had an opportunity to do so. So and then I also took over a lot of managerial duties at the same time, and like it was it's I don't really remember all the stuff that I had done on the podcast, but there was times in doing it where I've since shifted away from that, but because there was that backlog of episodes that Austin needed to work on that eventually just shifted onto me. I took over editing duties for one of her squads. I was just going to bed, waking up, working until I went to sleep again, and didn't take weekends. So it was, but that's also on me.
Yes.
So
To give myself a bit of an alibi, I was telling her not to work on weekends.
yes, but like we had a schedule that we had to submit by because so it was a little bit overwhelming because we had backers, right? And people were
Yeah.
already asking, why isn't this out yet? And so, you know, that was an issue. I am I am down to taking weekends again, and I now actually take breaks when I work. So, but yeah, but also I'm kind of now filling in the space of less work with more of like, well, what some kind of advertising can we do for this project? Because this project's very important to me because it's not just the work that I've put into it. It's, we have 30 other people who have done such good work. It's actually a little embarrassing because I spend so much time with these people and these characters in my head. I am such a fan of some of these people and some of the characters. I like all of our players and all of our characters, but I'm a fan for some of them. And it's just very important to me that like I want people to see it. I want people to be able to listen to it. You know, the it's just I learned how to use a Vocaloider to do the show for just a what I thought would be a little funny one-off character to sound like Daft Punk, and then everyone fell in love with that character, and they appear a lot.
Good.
But I really love the show, and it feels weird to love something that I participate in so much because I think many people can relate to this that when you see something that you've made, all you can see is the flaws. But because it's such a huge production, all I'm seeing, well, okay, not all I'm seeing. I can't, there's some episode I can't listen to because I'm like, oh, I can hear where I need to adjust the sound in this point, and but mostly what I hear is everyone's just Herculean amount of work that they've put into their characters, and oh gosh, all the GMs worked so hard on this, and it's just so lovely. And it's not even the amount of work. It's good. people have done made amazing characters. Like, I have cried listening to this. I have texted all of my friends about the people I ship together. Like, I I love it. I think people have done such good work.
You know, there's good character work when there's shipping happening.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
look, I can ship a paper bag with an orange, but
um, hell yeah, I'm excited to listen to more of it. From what I listened to, it was very, very good, and I appreciate you. I didn't get a chance to say it earlier, but it was very I appreciate you sharing like the story of how this was made, because it sounds like y'all had ups and downs, and uh, I appreciate that, like, that level of candor. I think it's really cool. I did also just notice something that I think is really funny, and I don't mean this as a slight against anything, I guess. I don't know what this would even be a slight against. So I think there's like a little stray pixel on Christine's PNG tuber,
yeah.
such that when Christine talks, Austin gets a single speck of dandruff, and I think that's really funny. um, and I think we'll keep it. I think that's how it's gonna go. But yeah. How do we feel about we have a good amount of news, and it's like hefty this week. Um,
Yes.
how do we feel about going into the Backer Tariff Manager, then taking a break, then doing the other two stories, and then doing mail?
Sounds good.
Okay, please, folks, send questions for myself, for Christine, for Austin, at darlingdemoneclipse@gmail.com. Ask questions about Beam Saber, about Kelliscon, about You Don't Mean an Inn, about games, about life, about the world. I don't know. You got options. Yeah. So we're gonna go into the news. Cordis the newsbird coming in from the Vatican. We don't know what Cordis did.
We've done it. We've done it, folks.
I don't endorse or abhor Cordis or anything that may or may have not have happened. So the first story is from BackerKit, this BackerKit tariff manager. BackerKit has a bunch of like little tools that you can use, like its editing suite and cross collab and all sorts of other stuff. When I say editing, I meant advertising suite. They've added a tariff manager that lets you apply a tariff fee as a separate line item into backers' carts. That is based on their region. So you can see like this. It is currently in beta. And they have a bunch of information here. Yeah, really interesting. I'm I don't have mixed feelings about this decision, because I think this is the right move. I'm just curious about like what the impact of this is going to be.
Yeah.
And, like,
So
yeah.
I used BackerKit's Pledge Manager for the Beam Saber Kickstarter, and I think I'm very glad that my crowdfunding predated all of this nonsense. I think this would be a very useful tool if I was having to deal with it. The only thing that I worry about is that, and like, I don't think that BackerKit would be able to solve this problem, but the fact that the person running the crowdfunding campaign needs to be the one to input the tariff charge that is specific to the country into the tariff manager. And with the way that, the tariffs have been changing the last month, up
Week,
and
day,
down,
hour.
I just, and then there's the fact that even in the tariff manager, the FAQ, it says like, well, what if the tariffs change? And they sort of shrug and say, charge as close to your shipping date as possible. And it's like, okay, but that's like, precision logistics like that, companies tend to have very large logistics departments for that sort of, what's it called? Last mile shipping
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, last minute shipping, something like that. And a lot of times these crowdfunding campaigns are extremely small teams doing it. So I mean, it's a good tool. And also, I don't know how much stress it actually alleviates for the people using it, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. I'm also like, it's also just like another thing that like consumers have to worry about on the front end, right? Like in terms of fees, because like right now, I mean, I'm running, I'm working on getting Dracotrification out, and like for people who I have to ship to the UK or France, pre-tariff, like I was charging them an arm and a leg because like
Mhm.
shipping was so expensive before the fucking tariffs, and it was getting more expensive before the tariffs, and now it's even more expensive, and I just worry about like it is good that like a creator can like set up these different like regional tariff fees, but it's unfortunate that might draw people away potentially. I don't know, but get this guy
I
out of here.
wonder, you know, I always wonder how, like, I mean, fingers crossed that it's not going to be a problem for too long, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But I do wonder if the economic uncertainty, we'll say, will shift creatives more less towards physical content and more towards digital, like provide resources for people to print out their own boards if it's a board game, or or maybe launch more towards digital spaces and game design, like fit the digital game design, which, you know, serves its purpose, of course, but there is something special about physical media. Also in terms of archiving, physical media is obviously best for that. But, I wonder if that's going to shape it, is I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah, I've already seen some people talking about how uh, uh, future board gaming products and miniature gaming products might just switch to selling 3D print files
Hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
their customers instead of actually selling the miniatures themselves.
Yeah, that makes sense. I wonder how accessible that is though. I mean, I guess a lot of libraries these days have 3D printers, depending where you
I mean,
live.
I think we have in Toronto one that does 3D printing. I might be wrong on that. It's been a while since I last checked. But and then of course the booking fees for that and the time needed to make a single to like make a single print.
Yeah,
It's
and some cities will have maker spaces or 3D printers you can hire, but
Mhm,
that obviously is also still cost prohibitive for many players.
mhm. And of course we're talking about resources of a city, not resources of like
Hmm.
a rural community.
Yeah, it's I'm also like uh, I, I suppose my my general thought on this is wow, things are so fucked. It's I guess where I am on this. Uh and I hope that like I guess my one hope is that like if things move digital, at least for TTRPGs, it will mean that there are a bunch of games that are ready to be in print when/if things are normal again. um,
I mean,
you know.
we saw that with COVID too,
Mm,
but then that's, and not to burst your optimism. Like it'd be
mm-hmm.
great for things to be, give people more time to polish up their material for before printing, but then like believe Beam Saber was printed. I mean, a lot really strong quotes about post-COVID, but post giving, caring about COVID, and there was a huge delay because of the amount of backlog that of orders that the printers needed to fill.
Yeah, there was a paper shortage in that period, and uh, the paper shortage was so bad that the printer that I originally wanted to work with, that I got my initial quotes for, had to turn me down because there was a moratorium on new clientele for them.
Damn.
And so I asked around at a bunch of other printers and tried to get quotes from them and ask them stuff, and they all had their own delays. And then I asked the original printer again. This, of course, being like a year, 2 years later, over the course of getting the thing into physical production, and they were accepting new clients again. So I wound up back with my original printer.
Okay. It is true that these things have aftershocks, and these things don't ever really they tend to not really go away.
This is a little bit of a tangent, but when we were test printing some print on demand for Beam Saber, that came out. That was a bit of an adventure. One of them came out with a full other book attached to it, and the book was someone's erotic poetry that they had
Holy
written.
shit.
And so we're glad that we were able to catch that before that was just the file that they had submitted for printing.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that was a very odd printing error to get in the mail.
Yeah.
I mean, listen,
it wasn't good. If it was good, then maybe we would have left it.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is I would have gladly done that, not on accident. I'll make a TTRPG that just has a bunch of erotic poetry in it. In fact, one might say I'm doing that.
Like to read that TTRPG, perhaps.
Yeah, it's called Sapphic World. It's gonna happen at some point.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah, probably this year. Smiles. Maybe if things go well. We're working on it. Things are happening in gay pervert game world. Anyways, yeah.
I get the newsletter. Don't worry.
Okay, good. I'm glad. All right. Let's take a break. Let's take 5. And then we'll come back. I almost wonder if we should talk about story 3 first and then go back to story 2.
Probably.
Okay. So, we'll be back soon, and after that, we'll go through 2 more stories. See you all in a little bit. Ah. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Dovecote episode 66 with Christine Blight and Austin Ramsay. We are going to continue diving into the news. We're going to talk more about tariffs. Yay! It's everyone's favorite subject, tariffs. This one's interesting, though. So, I have to be honest, I actually have not read this yet. Because it happened today, shortly before we started. Or at least we became aware of it shortly before we started. So from Stone Mayer Games, who make Dovecote, Finspan, Vantage, Wingspan, and a bunch of other stuff. Mostly, I believe mostly board games, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we are suing the president. This is pretty short, I'll just read this. We are joining a lawsuit that will challenge the president's unchecked authority to impose tariffs. We will not stand idly by while our livelihoods and the livelihoods of thousands of small business owners and contractors in the U.S., along with the customers whose pursuit of happiness we hold dear, are treated like pawns in a political game. Like many tabletop publishers, import code, we started print runs of products before the president took office, and now we face an unprecedented $14.50 tariff tax for every $10 we spent on manufacturing with our trusted long-term partner in China. For Stone Mayer Games alone, a U.S.-based company in which all 8 employees are U.S. citizens, that amounts to upcoming tariff payments of nearly $1.5 million. If the tariffs are damaging your business as well, please contact me at jamie@stonemayer.com, and I will connect you with the law firm. There's no cost to join the lawsuit. I try to lead with compassion and empathy, so legal action is very low on my list of ways to handle difficult situations. But this new norm of a 145% tariff imposed by the president on all exports from China to the U.S., including products that have been in the manufacturing process for months, we are compelled to take action. And then there's other actions they're taking. But yeah, Stone Mayer, along with a bunch of other small businesses, are suing the Trump administration, or suing, I think, the president himself. It appears. Interesting. I hope it goes well for them, I suppose, is my main thought.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering what other tabletop game companies are involved in this, because there's that's the widespread talk of the whole industry, is how this is going to affect various companies. Like Coyote and Crow is considering shutting down because of them. Steve Jackson Games is facing major costs since they also make board games as well as tabletop role-playing games.
Yeah.
It's hitting the entire industry very hard.
Yeah, it's interesting how diverse the impact is. I hope that this leads I hope this leads a lot of people to follow that email. In fact, I will put that email in chat. If you want to get in on this, and you have a tabletop thing that is being affected by the tariffs, fucking check that out. Cause hopefully at least you get some money. But ideally this causes some change. I suppose we'll say.
Yeah, I don't. Going through the courts, I can only imagine how long it'll take to see any outcome, but hopefully when that time comes, it'll be positive for the businesses.
Yeah. Here's hoping. Fingers crossed. Alright. So that's that one. And then our last story is a bundle. Trans Rights for Teachers for Trans Rights Ohio, which is supporting Trans Ohio, Kaleidoscope Youth Center, and yeah, they it's $5 for 467 games, usually an estimated 1.7K. So you should wrap that. I also wanted to do a sidebar on this. Although, do y'all want to highlight any games that are in this before I do my sidebar?
I scrolled through it a bit, and I did not. There are so many games in this that I don't think I saw a single one that I've actually played.
Let's see.
I am familiar with Lo Thy Dread Empire, but I have not actually played that. I have just have like read a little bit of it.
Eyes on the Prize by my partner in Your Beheld and Sapphic World and other games. Ira Prince smiles. Glitter Hearts, which I've played. I've heard good things about Paris Gondo. I've heard good things about Rosewood Abbey. Heard good things about Songbirds 3E. I've really been meaning to play that. Uh, da da da. I'm sure that there are games in here that I've actually played. Praying deep and hard on it.
I mean, there's 467 of them, so decent
Yeah.
shot, I suppose.
Where did they find queer tabletop role-playing designers?
Yeah, it's so strange. I'm sure if I gave this a closer look out. Da, 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 da. A variety
Oh,
of
I've played
games.
Boyfriend Dungeon.
Oh hell yeah. A lot of stuff here. A lot of like small like games that I've not heard of. Not necessarily small games. I don't want to imply that they're small because they might be huge games, right? I don't know. I haven't read them, but a lot of games that I've never heard of, which is good. You always want a bundle where it's like you look at it a couple of years later. I think it was Marn who was on the show who was talking about that, where it's like you need game bundles that you are like, all right, I need this particular game for this particular session, and you look a game, you look up like game about two spies who are like trying to kill each other in a dirty bathroom, and then it's like you open up the game and it's like you own this from X bundle, and then you're like, oh hell yeah. So get on that. Okay, my sidebar. So uh my sidebar is multifaceted and a little indulgent, so you're gonna have to deal with it. So
I'm holding your hand. I'm following you down the path.
Thank you. So this is an article by Anna Valens on Waypoint Vice, that says now is a pretty good time to buy this trans rights TTRPG bundle, and it kind of threads the line between the Supreme Court ruling in the United Kingdom, supported by J.K. Rowling, that basically says that there are not trans people, fucking awful, and says like, hey, this is a good way to support trans people in Ohio, which I think is cool. Also mentions Toxic Sword Lesbians, which is another great game. Really, really good kind of reimagining of Thirsty Sword Lesbians. I've spilled a lot of ink about that game because I think it's really great. But a thing that I want to talk about is okay. So like Waypoint, Waypoint Vice was like a really big place for video game journalism in the 2010s. Yeah, I would say mostly the 2010s, a little bit into the 2020s, and then it shut down because the because
Vice went under.
is evil. Yeah, Vice went under, and Vice is evil, and like a lot of those people kind of like spread to the many winds, and around that same time, Anna Valens was working for the Daily Dot, like kind of in the mid to early period of Waypoint's like prominence. Anna Valens is working for the Daily Dot, doing really interesting video game journalism on specifically sex and video games, queer sex and video games, and when so recently, a couple like a year or so ago, Waypoint Vice was brought back by like basically as like a husk of its former self, where came back wrong. Like, I mean, I think honestly, if I look here, like the things that are not written by Anna Valens are kind of slop. Like a lot of it is just like these are games. Like look at this game, instead of kind of the thoughtful, interesting work that Waypoint used to do. And like folks who used to work at Waypoint, like Austin Walker, uh, and Gita Jackson pointed this out, and like we're mocking it and being like, hey, this sucks. Like don't actually support these people. However, I really respect what Anna does. I really respect Anna's work, and like Anna is kind of actually doing Waypoint shit, you know? Like, if you look at the things that Anna's like covered recently, like, um, this talking about like this like fascist VTuber, um, talking about like an old like gender swap game, talking about fucking Marvel Rivals swimsuit skins, which like good for her. Like she's clearly having fun. And I think it's
Except that's
interesting.
not just SEO bait.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm intrigued by this, and I also I've seen that like Anna has an interest in doing some TTRPG stuff, and I'm like I'm putting my fingers together and smiling and like hoping that I have actually reached out to her about talking about quote unquote cigarette games, big air quotes.
Oh,
So but yeah, I'm excited to see like some robust, interesting, queer and kinky and like sex oriented like TTRPG and video game journalism from Anna. Um,
Yeah,
so
it's cool that it
salute.
exists and is out there and getting attention.
Yeah, that's my ramble.
thing that I wanted to bring up, since this seems like the space of it,
Yeah.
where Beam Saber has um kind of a joke within the community that it hits you with the trans beam. Um and well, uh well.
Mhm.
And I feel that there is something to be said about the intense body euphoria allegory that comes from mech fiction. Uh Austin, do you want to talk on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, mech fiction is very body focused because the mech is about the idealized body. You know, it is a body that allows you to be your best self, to reach your ambitions. It bridges the gap between where you want to be and what you want to do and what your physical body is capable of.
Mhm.
Um, Not to say nothing of the wide variety of mecha fiction in which the mech itself can be highly customized in a variety of ways.
Mhm.
So,
What I also feel like there is an intersection that's unavoidable to look at the ways in which bodies, in particular queer bodies, are also this might be stretching the metaphor a little bit. But in a lot of mech fiction, your idealized body is owned by the government. And
mhm.
I do feel like that is a bit of a factor as well of why we're sort of drawn to these types of stories, because it's not just like the idealization of the form, but it's also about how restrictive we are to accessing our idealized form and how that can be taken away from us.
Yeah, that is interesting. Are either of you into like mexploitation stuff at all?
I see a fair bit of that on my Tumblr dash. Armored Core 6 did a number on the mecha hashtag,
Mhm.
let me tell you.
That tracks. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of that stuff is exploring that like the a lot of the like darker mech stuff. I think is exploring that idea that like that kind of combination between the euphoric and the like politically politically annihilative. Uh, like you are a euphoric thing that is owned by the worst beings and people in the world, I think is really interesting.
I actually, just to loop things around to CalisCon again, because
Mhm.
I gotta get that SEO up.
Uh-huh.
But I do want to just take a small opportunity to talk about the character I play in it, just because I feel like I do
Hell
address
yeah.
a little bit of the issues. If you don't mind, it'll be as short as possible.
Go ahead, go ahead. We have time.
But so my character is actually part of the Dismounted Squad, which is a subclass of well, not sorry, not a subclass. It's a additional squad which is introduced in the Growing Conflict, which Austin just published a new update to like yesterday, was it?
Yeah, or Saturday. I
Yeah.
don't recall.
Anyway, hot off the presses is what I'm saying.
Mhm.
But so as part of the Dismounted Squad, we did not have mechs to play around with, but I was still interested in exploring these themes. So my character, Danny Hart, is part of a super science program that introduced psionics um, into their soldiers, and I wanted to explore. So, sorry, I'm a little nervous because it was
Do, do you do you want a minute to collect your thoughts? Because I just realized that we did not actually explain what CalisCon is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should. You go ahead and do that when
Do
I
that.
collect my thoughts.
So, you know, how like an hour into the show,
Yeah, that's fine.
uh, CalisCon is a Beam Saber mega game actual play featuring 6 play groups with 31 performers. And the main thrust of the story is that the players are part of an invading army that has mostly conquered a planet of a rival faction. And as they prepare for the final thrust to break the city in which the uh, opposition's insurgency is centered around, a third belligerent enters the fray, which is the nomadic anime convention of CalisCon,
Mhm.
which gets together every 5 years to invade a planet and take over a city and turn the entire city into one big convention for a whole year. And so it's sort of a meditation on fandom and what that can do to people. You know, at the start of every episode, I say the content warnings are about war, colonial occupation, obsession, and the many forms of violence those inflict. And that's sort of like the main thematic thrust of the game is, you know, you've got people here who are in like the war machine of an empire, albeit a democratic one, facing off against an insurgency and civilians who are trapped by their invasion, and then also this third group of obsessives who come in to really mix things up.
Yeah. Something I really like about that conceit that I'm like immediately compelled by, and I have not listened to enough to really know if you get into this, but I feel like you probably do, which is the vibe of like, yeah, like the the aesthetics of any given empire, the aesthetics of any given occupying force are like so arbitrary that they might as well be an anime. Like it might as well be a
Mm.
fandom.
Yeah, there's sort of like, you know, I would say that the three, like, CalisCon did not start as this show. It's originally a setting that appears in the Growing Conflict supplement, albeit under some different circumstances. It was adjusted to better fit an actual play format. But the original setting in this does carry over to the show, is inspired by three main things. One is Gundam fandom specifically and anime fandom generally. You know, I'm a big fan of Gundam, and so I see a lot of really bad takes about the series and about the franchise since it has been going for 40 years now. Um, the second thing is the 501st Legion, which is a group of Star Wars fans who dress up as stormtroopers primarily, but also occasionally other members of you know, the Empire. And they all show up in large groups to conventions and also do charity work. You know, they raise money at their events for charity. And so there's this sort of weird intersection between play acting as fascists and raising money for charity that
Mhm.
is a little uh, brain breaking. And then the third thing is the green zone that the U.S. military erected in Baghdad in the war in Iraq. You know, just this uh, cordoned off area in the middle of a foreign city where businesses familiar to U.S. troops were injected into it, so that they could get their McDonald's without having to interact with the wider city and populace.
I'm getting a little bit of static on your mic, Austin. I'm noticing.
Oh, uh, I was I don't know what to do about that because I have not really touched my mic since earlier.
Uh,
Um,
hmm. Okay, that's fine. It's not too bad. No worries.
yeah.
Christine, do you have your
Yeah,
dandy thoughts together? Because I think we'll do
yeah,
that and then
I
we'll go to
do.
the mail.
I guess I'll say first off, content warning for medical trauma.
Hmm.
I realized perhaps this is a little intense for the show.
That's
Of
okay.
course, I won't go into any detail. But I still wanted to explore the idea of the idealized body as governmental property. And so, in the psionics program, I wanted to really emphasize that government programs do take in it's so I guess I'll move back a little bit. So I have participated in Toronto. We have something called CAMH, which is the Center for Mental Health and Addictions, and it's it's the leading research facility. I want to say in Ontario, but it might even be Canada, honestly,
Hmm.
for mental health and addictions research. However, that is that is on the backs of people who are or too poor or lack resources otherwise to seek help from elsewhere. Um, and I have used it. I have found a lot of help with it. Also, I have felt victimized by it. Um, Particularly, I was in a program once where they wanted to do an experimental treatment for PTSD, and I did a couple of rounds of electrocompulsive therapy with them, and it made it worse. And when I dropped out, they just when you leave the program, they don't give any follow up support. So they put you on
Hmm.
medications. They'll do very intensive procedures on your mind and body, and then sort of okay, well, goodbye. Sort that out with
Woof.
your other doctors. Um, so I am very grateful for the help that I have found there, and also I don't think that it's above criticism that we we get life-saving research, but on the backs of the disabled and the poor and people who are just desperate for help. And that's what I wanted to play with Danny, where she applied for the program because her family was in massive debt for the government. I think a lot of Canadians never really forgot, at least I didn't, but like the amount of debt that farmers in Canada suffered from post war, where
Hmm.
you know the lands were sort of over. I might be talking out of my ass on this, but from what I remember of the history classes, lands were sort of like uh, were over farmed and the nutrients stripped from it, and then you're sort of left desolate when the lands can no longer produce as much. Um, but I so Danny came from sort of that perspective where her family came from a lot of debt for the country, so she signed up for the program thinking, it's going to be a simple program that won't even work, and ends up a lifetime commitment in the army, being brandished about as, a little pet psychic, which, because it's induced into her, there's no like fail safes for it. So it's
Right.
a very hard existence for her.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, a lot of that, there was some of it that got on screen. Unfortunately, in my play group, one of our players said that they weren't really interested in dealing with reoccurring NPCs. So our main villain ended up my my character's rival. So it ends more about exploring about abusive relationships and what does it mean when you are like literally mind linked with your ex and you feel like you're a part of them and you try to get away. What's that about? Let's explore
Fun.
that. Yeah. So at least I felt like I had something to say with Danny, but I just wanted, yeah, I don't think that you can tell mech fiction without talking about governmental interference with your body. I mean, I feel like you can. There's some very shallow stories out there, and I I think
Mhm.
we've all been guilty of "wow, cool robot," whatever that translates to. But that's what I wanted to do with Danny, and I'm really grateful that I got a place where I could talk about that.
Hell yeah. That sounds awesome. Uh, yeah. I think it's really cool. Like, it's always really cool, like hearing about how someone uses like play to explore things they've gone through, or things they want to explore in a game, and like how those things can shift depending on the needs of a
That
group. It's always really cool.
that is something that I always appreciate about the characters Christine plays, is that she puts a lot of thought into what narrative themes that her character invokes
Yeah.
once the character gets to the table, and you know whether or not those themes are able to be drawn out, in play. The fact that or drawn out and played by other people, to be clear,
Mhm.
Christine always does a good job of embodying them.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, the last character I played for the Rush Wars campaign where we were playtesting was basically what if Bugs Bunny was mean actually and did a lot of weed. So
Awesome.
I don't know how contextual that is.
Bugs Bunny should do weed soon. Um,
No, yeah, absolutely.
so shall we look at the male
Yes.
Sounds good.
and maybe even the female? Anyway, uh,
Oh,
hang on, wait, is this? Can y'all see this?
Yeah.
yes.
Let's do it this way then. Okay, from Corey
I'm
McDaniel,
call I'm calling this out. This is Hadrian.
from Hadrian to us. There are two questions. One for Christine. You mentioned ships. Best Kelescon ship. Spill it.
Okay, the best one is a spoiler, and so I shan't say it. Um, but I'll just say it's in the Squad Pizza. Um, and I think people will know it when it gets around to it. That's my favorite. My second favorite is I like the weird energy in Terminal Company between Julius, Mike, and Ipse. Mike is an engineer. Ipse is an artificial person, and Julius is just a big old freak. And they got
Pointedly, Julius and Ipse do not like each
they
other.
do not like each other. Julius is was a commanding officer of an oppositional army. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that he I mean it's very early on that he'll confess to this. He put his lover on a suicide mission and they did not come back from it, and
Uh,
he lost his hope and love for the country and signed up for the opposing army. And he's dealing with that and dealing with I really love the characters. Dealing with not trusting his ability to command and looking for guidance, one might say. And yeah, there's a lot of weird energy that I like. I like it. And then of course there's also the ship of the commanding officer of the 86 and me.
Yay!
Yeah.
No mention of Zach and Danny as a
Oh,
favorite
yeah,
ship.
the abusive guy and the person who's been trying to run away from them and getting back together and tearing apart for literally 30 years. Yeah, for some reason I don't love that ship.
Interesting.
Listen, let me just say, I might be telling on myself, like where it is at right now, I do not ship them. But like there is times in their life where they're both toxic that I could
If it's both their fault, it's
listen.
fine.
If it's both their fault, you know, I'll watch.
I understand.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have another question from the same person. To both of you, despite the amount of work, do you feel the call to try another project like ClassCon in the future?
Fuck no.
Okay. Listen to me. You listen to me right now. Halfway through the project, I would wake Austin up in the middle of the night and I'd say, just get your okay, this clarification, I am joking. But I would get up in the middle of the night, wake her up and whisper in her ear, if you ever make me do another project like this, the world will end. No, but I did halfway through the project say like we are never doing this anything like this ever again. And then and then about like a quarter way or 3/4 through the project, I started making notes about like here's how to streamline doing a project of this scale again. I think that the scale was too big.
Mm-hmm.
I I could see a mega story being told by like 4 groups of people, with like a tighter ship. I have a whole document of notes about how I would do it better next time. And honestly, my work is running out. I should be done within a month or so, and I'm looking at that couch cushion, you know? I'm gonna rip
Mm-hmm.
it up if I don't get more work to do. Um So I think we're going to be taking a break. I actually have I have a surgery that's going to be going on in a week. So
Wishing you
I am
luck.
on forced bed. Thank you. It shouldn't be too bad. But I am on forced bed rest. And then I think after CallusCon is done for real, I will be also on forced bed rest.
Mm-hmm.
But then I don't know, man.
You'll want
I
again.
I
Yeah.
want to do it again. I not this exactly, but like especially with the people working in the groups, if I could work with some like there's definitely like the top of the tops to me that I would love to work with again. And yeah.
Yeah. And
All right.
I also have ideas for what another big project kind of like this would be, but it would not be groups in parallel, it would be groups in series.
Mm.
I think that would probably be easier to manage. I think.
I don't know. I got a document, man. We'll talk about it.
Awesome. Okay.
I
Next.
like how the answer from both of us went from like absolutely not to well
You
maybe,
will.
just like
You will.
kombucha gif.
You will. It will happen. It's gonna happen. I promise you. Uh, Playtests. Email from Sneaky Phoenix, aka Sabrina, friend of the show. Hello, hello. I'm working on organizing a playtest for a TTRPG I'm designing with a friend. We have the players, but finding time is always a doozy. And also, since it's both a hidden role game and a moderately intimate game, an interesting challenge for facing is finding groups where people are comfortable playing with each other. Do you have any fun stories about issues popping up during playtesting/APs? Any insights on organizing games as a whole? I know that's 2
Story?
questions.
Uh, well, so something that we did for the podcast is that we did try to make it as friendly as possible because we acknowledge that these were people coming in on their own time to do something for us. So I would cook for them. We would usually be friends with them beforehand. Sometimes we had some people who were friends of friends who came in, who were excellent. But part of it was that like we are a group of friends that you know are committed to helping each other, and so there's a give and take there. Not suggesting obviously that that's not how your friend work works, but I think going in with the spirit of energy that that they are sacrificing something for you, even if they're having a fun time. Um,
There's a degree to work in playtesting.
yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. Um, Groups where people are comfortable playing with each other.
So for insights on organizing games as a whole, you need to have someone who is going to be Sisyphus, right? Someone has to push the boulder up the hill every
Gotta
single
herd the
time.
cats.
Usually it's the GM, but as if you're the game designer who's running playtesting, it might be you instead of the GM.
Mhm.
Um,
There, I
and
mean,
that's really how like sessions happen. Is there needs to be at least one person pushing for the session to happen.
mhm. Now there's also, it's not even just one person pushing for the session to happen, but you sort of have to be insistent in terms of, like for us, it was for us doing the podcast. I don't really recommend listening to the older podcast that you don't mean to in just because the production skills weren't really at that level. Um, Listen to CallusCon. There's a lot of blood in it. Um, but for the original podcast, it was like it was always going to be this time, this place, this many people, and if it's an online space, then what you need to do is say that like I need you to let me know if you're interested. What blocks of time work for you? And then once you figure out an overlapping block of time where everyone's available, at that point you have to be the one to say like, okay, so we're doing March 16th at 3 p.m. And if someone's like, oh, I actually can't do 3 p.m., then, like modify that, but you have to be insistent and very firm because people will say, yeah, I want to play. And then that's it. And so you need to be on top of what time, what day, where are we meeting, you know, you just have to.
Yeah, I agree. You need a you if you're gonna have sheep, you need a sheepdog or a shepherd, or ideally
Yes.
both.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah.
There's also not program, like there's websites that you can like upload your schedule into.
Mhm.
I don't know them off the top of my head because I don't really use them, but I saw other groups in CallusCon using them where they would, like say like, okay, well, we're getting ready to record, please everyone, like input so that, like it's visual for everyone too. Um, do
I
you
think
do you know?
When to Meet is one of them.
Yeah, I use one to meet quite a bit.
Yeah.
And there's a couple out there that people use. Um,
Yeah, I think that
Fun stories about issues popping up during playtesting or APs.
hmm.
I find I don't know if it's necessarily a fun story, but I do find it very interesting in editing CallusCon, where it's it's interesting listening to see like where the wording of certain rules confuse people and like where there's a lot of stumbling blocks for that will come up again and again. I do definitely feel like if you are playtesting and you have everyone's consent, recording the sessions and listening it over and seeing, like where
Mm-hmm.
are people stumbling, like if they're misinterpreting the rules, is that a user error or are the rules not very clear? Give it a listen. I think it would be really helpful because when you're in the moment and like if you're playtesting and GMing, your head's not going to be there. You need to have space and reflection to figure out, what are the issues that are being flagged here.
Yeah, I was extremely fortunate during the playtesting phase of Beam Saber. There were uh, two or three different play groups that recorded their sessions and then provided it to me so that I basically had like my own personal podcasts for my game before my game was released in a sense. And those were very useful to see like what people liked, what they didn't understand, what they thought was missing, etc. So, if you can get an get a recording of people playing the game, like Christine said.
Yeah, I know Jess Levine uh did a bunch of like really cool for Planet Fist had a server for a while where she would like help facilitate organizing games of Planet Fist that would be recorded
Mhm.
and then she would like and there was also like a feedback form that she had and she would like listen to the recordings, like go through the feedback and like kind of parse it as best as she could. It seemed like a lot of work, but it was really impressive, and I think it got her a lot of really useful information.
Mhm. Also,
Yeah. Oh,
oh, I was just gonna say, so Austin does have a Discord for Austin Ramsay Games, which is the company where she, all of all of her games are released with. Uh, but she has a whole section for specifically when people have questions about the rules, which I feel like has been very helpful also for figuring out like what's a bunch of things that come up again and again there. Gotta red flag that.
yeah. It's I often worry that my advice about playtesting will not be widely applicable because I was extremely fortunate. I started the game design for Beam Saber in the Friends at the Table Discord, so there's already a lot of people there predisposed towards the genre. And so
Right.
when I made my own Discord, a lot of people followed. Um, and having a Discord dedicated to my game design has paid dividends over time. Like those people who recorded their sessions and sent them to me, they were in calls in my Discord or met there. And a lot of them were using Craig, which is a
Mm-hmm.
common Discord bot that will record your calls and then provide the audio for them. So that is a useful tool for encouraging people to record their playtest sessions.
I think, I understand that you feel like you're very lucky to, have found your crowd who were willing to follow you. But I think to me that says that a good advice is to, you know, join community spaces that are about the games that,
Hmm.
the types of games that you want to participate in. Like, I mean, I'm glass houses here because I have extreme social anxiety and I'm probably autistic, honestly. um, but I have a lot of fear of that. But like, if you want people interested in the thing that you're making, then you got to go to the place. You got to go to the place where they're hanging out, and then
Mm-hmm.
be like, "I also made this thing. Would you like to look at it?" And people generally are like, "Yes, please. I would love to look at it."
Yeah. I guess a common piece of feedback for game designers in regards to quote unquote networking is try and make friends with people who are at roughly the same level of career development as you are,
Yup.
you know?
That has helped me. That has paid dividends for me in terms of building teams and stuff. Because like I have a lot of friends who have, I think, like way more developed TTRPG careers than me, but like they're often really fucking in the weeds and really busy, and so like, you know, having people who are at a similar level as me, and like we can ask each other questions and ask each other for things and work together is really good and important. And I think it's good to find that. I will second that with all my heart.
I also think that it's important, regardless of where you are in, in terms of fame or popularity, to give back to the community. Austin
Mm-hmm.
does a lot of like helping, like she helps a lot of people specifically with Beam Saber modules that they want to publish. She will talk to them about it. You've done work on, you've done a lot of work, making sure that other people can make money off of something that you've made. And I think that's important. You need to do that. You need to just continue to feed into the community that you're a part of.
Don't pull the ladder up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Agreed. Okay. I think that might be it. We're coming up on 2 hours here. Do y'all have anything else? I've plugged quite a number of things. I plugged Beam Saber and Gillespie. Like I put those links in the chat. If folks want to scroll up, you can grab those. There's not that much chat. Do y'all have anything else you wanna direct folks towards, perhaps?
I guess you posted links to my games. I will say that I have games there that are not just Beam Saber.
Whoa.
So if mechs are not your genre are not your cup of tea, there's probably something there for you. I've got a game that's inspired by Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles called Age Range Altered Creature Heroes. I've got a sort of noir vibe game called In the Air Tonight. I've got a horror game called Alone in the House. There's a wide variety of games that I have on my itch store. Most of them are pretty inexpensive. And so, yeah, check it out. There might be something for you that you weren't aware of, because Beam Saber is really the only one that people know. Maybe a little bit of In the Air Tonight.
Check them out. Check out Austin's awesome games. Okay.
As for me, I'm still chained to the desk for CalsCon. I do voice work. I usually do it under a pseudonym, but I'll do work under my own name sometimes. If you're interested in that, just cvblight@gmail.com. And yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm technically an editor. It's just always under duress.
Mm-hmm.
She is very good at both of those things, to be clear, both the editing and the voice acting.
Thank you.
Yay. Hell yeah. Okay. I'm gonna raid a person. Thank you so much, both of you, for being on here. I really appreciate it. This was a lovely, lovely episode. All right.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yay. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Remember, if you don't like what you see, you can change it. It's up to you, really. Goodbye, good luck, and have fun